Good evening, family. How are you all doing on this beautiful Friday? You guys are just in time for our Mental Health Fridays. We are going to have a really good discussion today. And as always, I got something just to share with my community. So while everyone is coming in, not only do I give you guys all my greetings for good evening, good night. I love every last one of you guys. Somebody says, I'm sitting here at work ready with my notepad. Dr. Shonna always dropping knowledge. You get that notepad. Thank you, Nichelle. She says, hey, chocolate drop. Thank you, beloved. So listen, in this video today, we're going to have a serious conversation. So I titled it on purpose because I want to be able to frame the discussion. So we're going to talk about disillusionment and depression among the ADOS community. This is a conversation that we need to have. We really need to have. We have to have this conversation about disillusionment. I'm going to break it all the way down, but I'm going to frame everything within a particular context that we have to begin this discussion. So before I even get into all of that, let me just go ahead and do some housekeeping, family. I want to let you guys know that I'm going to be discussing 3 different areas in this video. I am going to be discussing disillusionment. I am going to be discussing our rude awakening. And I'm going to be discussing the signs of depression. All right. And when I talk about depression, I'm not talking about it in the sense of how we've come to understand and know depression. I'm talking about it as a community, not an individual, but a community. So we're going to have a really, really good conversation today. But first, before we get started, family, I see all the ADOS families coming through. Come on through, y'all. Yes, baby. Before we go ahead and get started, here's what I'm going to need you guys to do. As always, subscribe to the channel. And that little notification bell that comes to the side of it, hit the notification bell, choose all so you can know when I am going live. I want you to give this video a thumbs up. For my select haters, don't worry. I noticed the thumbs down and I like them as well because we all don't have to agree, but we all have to engage. That is the trick bag that YouTube is selling to you haters out there. So go ahead and give me the thumbs down. I would take that too. And lastly, but not least, make sure, family, you share the video. For my mods, like Empire Risk, good evening, beautiful. For my mods, Tiana, Nadira, good evening, beautiful. To all my moderators in there, I want you guys to make sure we understand that not everyone is going to agree with me and not everyone has to be banned, blocked, or deleted. We allow people to have a difference of an opinion, but we know when people are being intentionally rude and disrespectful and just interrupting the flow and the energy that we have in this room, we get rid of them. It's just as simple as that. I see Antonia Schuler's on. How you doing, Antonia? Good to see your name in the chat room. It's always appreciated. Ladies, I want you to make sure you visit the website, my website, that is theiriswomen.com, theiriswomen.com. Classes every Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. And the class is designed not only to strengthen us as women, but so we can make better partner choices. So I'm giving you guys a lot of knowledge. So there's a lot of women in here that's in my class. You guys can share your testaments about the class. Everything is kept confidential. So as you know, as we promised, we don't share what other people talk about, but we are doing some great things in that class. So it's every Saturday. Make sure you go ahead and join us. And last but not least, before we go ahead and get started, I want you guys to consider joining the channel as a member. Not only does it support the channel, but it also gives back the information you need. I have an upcoming business class coming in that channel. I will be uploading another relationship video in that channel. And I have something special for the social media members of that channel. I'm actually seeking social media partners. So I'm going to be doing a live video just for the social media members and above. So that's social media, relationship, and business. I'm going to be doing a live video for you guys to let you guys know what that partnership will look like. And I'm going to explain not only the criteria, but the process. So we'll talk about that in private. I just want to let you guys know that's for you guys who are members. And last but not least, I want to give a fat shout out to all my donors. So I don't want you guys to think that I am ignoring you. So let me go ahead and give the shout outs and we can go ahead and get started with today's lesson because it's important to acknowledge the people that keep this channel going because you guys don't know how much it takes out of us to give you content that is transformative. I think it's important for us to really get a hold of that word being transformative. I can come in here, I can gossip, I can criticize, I can bash people all day, but that's not transformative media. I want to be here to give you information. So that's why I want to thank the people who donate. So to Antonio Schuler, I want to say thank you for your donation. To Justin, you are loved as well. Belinda Wells, Isaac, aka William Grayson, and of course, William Scott. You are always consistent, William. I want to say thank you to all of you guys and to everyone else who are members to this channel. Thank you to you too. So now that I got that out the way, let's go ahead and start to frame this conversation. So you know I'm heating up. You know my mouth gets a little bit loud. I'm heating up because I want to be able to frame this conversation so you guys can understand what position I am coming from when I speak about the disillusionment that continues to plague our community. And see, I know some people looking at the word ADOS in the title, and some of our brothers and sisters who are not of the ADOS community might be feeling some kind of way, but I don't want you to feel any kind of way because when I frame it, you're going to understand the discussion at hand. And not that this doesn't impact you, it does impact you, but we're talking about the social historical context of those of us who have lineage starting here in America. It's important for us to really frame this within that context so we can really fully understand why we are plagued by disillusionment and why our community is depressed. We're going to frame this in that work. But let me just take you guys back because I know somebody said she had her pen and paper. Come on, baby, get to writing. Let me take you back to a New York Times article. Now, we know all this white media and white talk articles. Sometimes we got to take stuff with a grain of salt, but there's a lot of times that, you know, things that are written in the reputable sources, we should not be ignoring. Because I say to you guys all the time, family, that I know some white people be getting mad, but don't get mad. Don't get in your feelings. You know, just put your feelings under your bun, sit on it and just calm down. But white people study us. They still study us like specimens. They want to know how we think. They want to know how we move, how we act, how we behave, what is going to trigger us, what is going to calm us down, what is going to frighten us, what is going to motivate us. They've been studying our asses. Ooh, I started to curse. Good Lord, somebody get the swear jar. Thank God it's not Sunday. The Lord's Day. But y'all know that's a joke, right? So don't be coming in my comments with all that nonsense, right? Oh, the Sabbath, it's on. I don't want to hear it. It was a joke. But anyway, I'm trying not to curse because I understand that people have their children watching me. And I know y'all got filthy mouths in your house, and that's fine. But the babies don't need to know that Dr. Shonna got a filthy mouth. So I'm trying not to curse. But let me go on. Let me go back to the topic at hand. White people have been studying our behinds for a very long time. They like to know what we do. And I'm not mad at them. When I say that, it's not coming from a place of hate. It's saying because just as they study us, I study them. So it's important for you to know the players on the chessboard. It's important for you to know your opponents. It's important for you to know your enemies. It's important for you to know these things, right? It's important for you to know who are the pawns and who are in other high-ranking positions. It's important for you to know all the players. So I want to be able to give you guys some context into what you all have been experiencing recently as in November 2020, that it just baffles me how our community tends to behave. I'm not saying everyone thinks this way. I'm not saying everyone behaves this way. But what I'm saying is our community tends to behave like the stuff that they are experiencing or the stuff that we are experiencing is brand spanking new. But you know how I always say it, baby. You got to understand why we are experiencing the things that we experienced in 2020, November that is because the stage has been set for us a long time ago. So I want to draw you guys' attention to the New York Times, October 27th. As you know, Election Day is in November. So this is a week or so before Election Day, like a week before. October 27th, 2006. You ready for this? So this article, it is titled, just in case you want to go look it up, October 27, 2006. It is titled, Democrats Fear Disillusionment in Black Voters. I want to be able to read some portions of this so you can get the context in which I'm going to have today's discussion. It says for Democrats, I said Democrats, right? Democrats. Oh, I'm sorry, Democrats. Don't want to be disrespectful to all the loyal Democrats. But for Democrats like these in tight races, Black voter turnout will be crucial on election day. There they go, talk about Black voter turnout. Everybody is always talking about Black voter turnout, and we are always falling for the trick bag. But despite a generally buoyant Democratic Party nationally, there are worries among Democratic strategists in some states that Blacks may not turn up to the polls in big enough numbers because of disillusionment over past shenanigans. This notion that elections are stolen and the elections are rigged is so common in the public sphere that we're having to go out of our way to counter them this year, said Donna Brazile. Don't we know who that is? A Democratic strategist. Y'all do know who she is, right? That's the lady that got caught up with Roland Martin. I'm going to respect him. I'm going to give him his name. That's the woman that got caught up with Roland Martin with the Hillary Clinton scam. And got her behind fired, right? There was hella Black woman to do the dirty work, right? But nonetheless, it says this will be the first midterm election in which the Democratic Party is mobilizing teams of lawyers and poll watchers to check for irregularities, including suppression of the Black vote in at least a dozen of the closest districts, Miss Brazile said. Democrats' worries are backed up by a Pew Research Center report that found that Blacks were twice as likely now than they were in 2004 to say they had little or no confidence in the voting system, rising to 29% from 15%. Let me stop right there for a second, family, because we got to really explore that. Doesn't it sound familiar? Right? Doesn't it sound all too familiar? It seems like every time they're trying to mobilize our community to get to the poll, it's like they use language like voter suppression because they know that's going to make a lot of our boomer voters in the, what's the other generation before the boomers? The silent generation. It's going to make a lot of boomers and silent generation people very nervous because they're very sensitive about the word voter suppression. So they use this kind of language, and I don't want you guys to think that I'm saying these things do not occur. I'm not saying that voter irregularities are not occurring, but they know what they're doing. They know how to be strategic with the trigger words or the buzzwords that they're using in order to play on the emotions of the people. And so they're constantly mobilizing our community, specifically the ADOS community. They're constantly motivating and mobilizing our community to get out to the polls. And they love, no, not Gen X. Somebody said Generation X is the silent generation. I'm a Generation Xer. Allegedly. What they love to do is use language that's going to heighten our fears and cause us concern. And I'm not saying that things are not happening in certain areas, especially those areas that are out west and those areas that are down south, especially in those kind of areas. I'm not saying that things are not happening. I'm saying that when it comes to media and when it comes to the language to get us afraid enough to go out there and fight the voter suppression and make sure our vote is heard, right? Versus those of us that say, every time we show up to the poll, we're not getting anything. So they know that they're combating these two types of energies within the ADOS community, right? And maybe even the Black community at whole. They know that they're combating these kind of mindsets. So they hire all these strategists, campaign marketers, they hire lawyers, everybody who is so like informed in these areas so that they can know how to speak to the community. Let me go ahead and say a little bit more about this article before I go ahead and end it. So it goes on to say that, like many other Black people in Miss Alfol of Milwaukee's neighborhood, Miss Alfol said, or Afal said, she was convinced that no matter how she voted, it would not be counted fairly. She says, I do think the system is rigged. I vote anyway because my forefathers worked too hard to win me that right. But not everyone feels that responsibility around here. She said she traced her own skepticism about her vote not counting to one afternoon 2 months before the last presidential election, when she overheard several young Black men saying they were not going to vote because they feared being arrested at the polling station for their unpaid parking tickets. The neighborhood had been flooded with flyers from Milwaukee Black Voter League, a fictitious group, saying that even minor infractions like parking tickets disqualify people from voting. She says she argued with the men to try to convince them, but they didn't change over. Then I want to end this article. It's a good article. It's not that long. I want you guys to go read it. It's not that long, but it goes on to say that, hold on. Oh, my thing keeps going small. I'm sorry, family. Just want to make sure I'm getting this right. It goes on to say, last time, now what he's talking about is that this is, let me just go back because I want you guys to be able to set the stage. It says former President Bill Clinton addressed the issue there, criticizing some Republican campaign tactics. After mentioning rough-edged political ads and other strategies, he said, and when that doesn't work, they try to keep you from voting. Headed into a statewide candidates forum on prison overhaul for pastors from Baltimore, the Reverend Herbert Brown III, who is Black, said that the success of Black voter mobilization efforts in 2004 set the stage for some disillusion. Remember what it said? The success of Black voter mobilization efforts in 2004 set the stage for some disillusion. Last time you had hip hop leaders like Russell Simmons, Eminem, and Sean Combs with the Vote or Die campaign. Y'all do remember that campaign, right? And lots of young Blacks voted, but what did they get? Said Mr. Brown, 26, pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church in Baltimore County. Now, when you talk to young Black voters, you can't just say, get out the vote. You have to first do a lot of explaining, cut through a lot of confusion about the 2000 vote, and first talk about how change takes time. Let me stop right there. Thank you for that donation, Ben Israel. Let me stop right there. I stop right there because we continuously run into the same thing. And for some reason, we continuously act like this whole discussion around our votes It's new. We're always afraid of voter suppression. We're always afraid of Black males not voting. We're always afraid of the young not voting. They are always using celebrities and well-known people in the Black community to lead campaigns and talk to the young people to get them out to vote. They're always talking about voter fraud. They're always talking about irregularities. This whole stage has been set up for a very long time. Very long time. But the reason why I am saying that our community is disillusioned is not necessarily, not that it doesn't include this because it does, but it's not necessarily because we're continuously voting and we're not getting anything back in return. Now, is that a problem? Absolutely. Why we keep showing up year after year, voting for the Democratic Party religiously and not getting anything back in return? I don't know. Well, I do know, but when I say I don't know, I'm saying that I don't know. Well, I do know. So I'm not going to say I don't know. I'm trying to get another word. But it baffles some people, not me. It baffles some people while our community continuously falls for the same trick bag election after election after election. We fall for the same narratives. We fall for the same tricks. And we're continuously talking about our disappointment that we haven't gotten anything in exchange for our vote. Woo, baby. Somebody said, teach. Sonia, I'm about to teach. Y'all better get your pen and paper. Let me tell you what I'm about to teach. I've been asked recently, why do I do this, right? Somebody said, with your education, your expertise, and the reviews that you get as a therapist, as a clinician, as a couples counselor, a couples therapist, a marriage counselor, whatever you want to call me. You could be so much further in life. You deserve a show. You deserve to be on a radio. You should be the expert speaking. You come with so much knowledge and information. I've seen you teach at reputable conferences every year. Your information is so impactful. You educate the masses, white, Black, Hispanic. Everyone knows who you are in the social work community here in New Jersey. Why don't you just focus on that? And I left the person with this. When I got my education not so I can ignore the plight and the problems of my community, but I got my education so that I can help my community. I went through all the abuse that I received in the various institutions that I have graduated from, abuse from administration in some schools, abuse from classmates in other schools, and I stayed focused despite the feedback, despite the rhetoric, despite the ignorance. I always stayed focused despite returning my research and questioning my research, despite asking me to change my language, despite asking me to change my focus. Don't use this word. Oh, this makes people uncomfortable. Do you have to use those images? Despite all of that, I stayed focused because I knew when I got into school for the purpose of helping my community in whatever shape or form that I can do. And that's what I aim to do with all my videos. And the reason why I decided to start doing the mental health Fridays, because I wanted to give it from a different perspective. Because in my opinion, I'm not saying this is true for all or most clinicians, but in my opinion, what I see is a lot of clinicians do not understand racism. Oh, we're going to have a heated conversation, baby. Y'all better get ready. A lot of clinicians of African descent, let's put it that way, do not understand racism. And those who do not understand racism, but they are working with members of our community, are at a disadvantage. So I'm framing this conversation in the context of racism because we have been so programmed to believe we know what racism is. And so when it doesn't look like the person with the blue eyes and bad teeth, propaganda, right? When it doesn't look like the person with the blue eyes and the bad teeth, or with the swastika, or with the white hood, or with the red pickup truck with the shotgun in the back, or with the Confederate flag, when it doesn't look like that, many of us, not all of us, too many of us, we get misinformed and we get comfortable around people because we're not ready and able to identify what racism is. So we don't know the enemy when the enemy is coming. But family, I want y'all to know that disillusionment, right, is perpetuated among our community, among Blacks and among the ADOS community. It is perpetuated. It is set up by the enemy, and we don't even recognize it. We don't even know that we are being disillusioned intentionally. Too many Black people don't seem to understand this within the context. And when I speak to too many of our people, whether you are identifying as Black as a whole, or you segmenting your Blackness with whether you are born on the continent in Nigeria, Ghana, it doesn't matter, right? On the continent of Africa, whether you're coming from a Caribbean island, whether you're coming from Europe, whatever the case is, when I speak to our community, and I ask them about racism, they can't really form it for me in a language that lets me know that they are aware of what their enemy is. Not who their enemy is, but what their enemy is. Even when I ask these sisters and brothers, are they aware of Neely Fuller? They don't even know who he is. Too many of them do. Now, every now and then, I run into some people that know who Neely Fuller is. And I know in this community, many of us do, but we know that we have people in this community that come here to learn because they don't know. We know we have younger people in this community. And when I say younger, y'all know I think I'm young. I'm a whippersnapper, but I'm talking about younger than in their 40s. We know that they don't understand or know who Neely Fuller is. So I'm going to be able to give you guys some information about racism according to what Neely Fuller says. And he says racism is a system that functions in all areas of people's activities. Listen to that word. Racism is a system that functions in all areas of people's activities. And he named 9 different areas in which racism, which is a system, 9 different areas in which it functions. He has named economics, education, entertainment, labor, that is your workforce, law, policies like regulations, statutes, law, religion. And this is a topic that we have the greatest disillusionment within, because we don't want to really have this conversation, because to have this conversation critically, the conversation of religion, to have this conversation critically would be for us to put down everything that we have been taught and be willing to be re-educated. And that's too risky of a business. And that's what keeps many of us in the Black community, including the ADOS community, disenfranchised and disillusioned. Politics, sex, and war. Did y'all hear me? Y'all need me to say it again? Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. These are the components that racism functions in. These are the 9 components that make up the system of racism. And the purpose of this system, is to maintain power. And the power that is being maintained here is white power. And when I say white power, I'm not talking about Nazis. I'm not talking about, your Confederates, right? Those are a bunch of ignorant people. but I'm talking about whiteness as a whole. It is to maintain white power over non-white power, right? So what is disillusionment, family? Somebody said, keep us on the bottom. That's how it's designed. That's how it's designed. And people don't like to hear that. And this is why they face disillusionment every time something comes up that puts in their face that we are still at the bottom, that puts in their face that we are the most disrespected community of people, that puts in their face that people love to rub shoulders with us, but they don't want you in their house. They don't want you sleeping over, and they damn sure don't want your son up on their daughter. But what is disillusionment? What is disillusionment? Disillusionment is a feeling of disappointment resulting from the discovery that something is not, resulting from the discovery that something is not as good as one believed it to be, right? Is a feeling of being disappointed that what you believed to be is not what it is. That's what disillusionment is. So that article that I read to you guys, they were talking all about Black disillusionment among Black voters. And the disillusionment that they were saying is Blacks don't feel that they should participate in the voting system because they're not going to get anything in return. Now, does that have truth to it? It does have truth to it, without a doubt. But is this how the overwhelming community of Black people, whether you are identifying as ADOS or something else, is this the truth from the overwhelming majority of us? No. Because if that was the truth for the overwhelming majority of us, we would not be showing up, period, to vote. We're trying to, in this community, we're trying to have people to see that we are suffering from disillusionment. But that will require people to take off those rose-colored glasses and really look at things for what they really are. But don't worry, family, I'm going to break that down for you today. I'm going to give you guys 5 areas of disillusionment that I recognize that our community, specifically the ADOS community, is suffering from. So go ahead and get your pen and paper. Somebody said tired of being used. We are tired of being used. And until we allow ourselves the blessing of being re-educated, we will continue to be used until we get ourselves in a position that we are sharing information like this without feeling like our friends, our family, and our networks are going to judge us. Until we start to move collectively in everything that we do, we will remain disillusioned and our community will continue to be depressed. Makes me sick to my stomach. Because we are afraid, people. We are afraid to learn something different. And the reason why we are afraid is because we're not looking at the world in the context of the system of racism that operates in the 9 areas that I pointed out to you. We're not approaching these areas of life: economics, education, entertainment, law, labor, religion, politics, sex, and war. We are not engaging in those areas or in those activities under the context that we are operating within a system that is racist. Because too many of us are disillusioned. And I'm going to give you the 5 reasons. And this is not the only reasons. I'm sure, family, when we all put our heads together, we can exhaust this list. But I don't have all day to be here to exhaust this list. So I'm going to give y'all the 5 main areas that I came up with, and you guys can write it down. The first area of disillusionment that I see that we suffer from is we are told that white is the majority, white is the norm, white is the standard, and white is the measure against all. Now, of course, We got some happy Black folks that says, not me, not me, not me, not me. Nobody wants to be the person that believes this information. But when you look at our community collectively, we're operating like that. We're operating like that because we have been conditioned for hundreds of years to believe this. And it no longer has to be said outright in an obvious, clear way for us to understand it, because we perpetuate it and we enforce it because our subconscious mind has been taken over. And if we've been following the world statistics, we would know that white is not the majority in this world. White is actually the minority. But isn't that a trick bag when a little bit of people convince you that you are the minority? So when I hear Black people using the word, us minorities, I step aside and I move out the way. You ain't talking about me. There's nothing about me that's a minority. But we continuously perpetuate white talking points, white propaganda, and we don't even know that we are doing it because we are sleeping. So when I come in and I say, boom, family, you've been disillusioned. White people are not the majority. It's uncomfortable for many people to hear this, because that means that they will have to wake up and start to look at themselves differently. Oh, I know I'm going over some people's head. I know I'm going over some people, not all, but I'm going over some people's heads because they don't recognize that this conditioning is designed so that the white power forces can maintain their power, right? Black people don't even recognize that they subconsciously aim to measure up to the standard. To whose standard? To whose standard? Right? To whose standard? And so when you got people like us in this community who gets it, when you have people like us that start to approach some people in our community, and I'm talking about the ADOS community, because we already, listen, to my Caribbean brothers and sisters, to my brothers and sisters from the continent of Africa, to my Europe brothers and sisters, I don't want y'all to get in your bag. I don't want y'all to get in your feelings, because what I'm about to say, it does not apply to all of you guys, right? Now, hold on. I'm about to say it. It don't apply to all of you guys. But I can only talk about my experience. That what I'm saying about disillusionment, this applies to you guys too, but some of you guys are very far gone because y'all like to live up to whiteness. I know some people are going to be in there bad. That's okay. Y'all like to use whiteness as the measure of your success. Y'all like to use whiteness as the measure of your beauty. You like to use whiteness to look toward whiteness for acceptance. See, we don't go, for the most part, many of us, not all of us, but many of us do not go parading in their communities, because having lineage here in America, we understand what that entails for us. We understand that it's a dangerous thing for us to do. We understand that the devil could smile right in your face and shake your hand and feed you and clothe you and hire you and love on you, even have a baby with you, and they will be the devil. You see, when we try to wake our Black brothers and sisters up from this madness, when we put it out there that we have been measuring our beauty, we have been measuring whether or not we're hard workers, we have been measuring our standards, we have been entering circles looking for their acceptance, we have been changing the tone of our voice, we have been changing the way we pronounce our words, we have stiffened ourselves up, we have changed the way we walk, we have changed the way we dress, we try to go into communities and circles that indicate prestige, success, and wealth, knowing we ain't got none. We try to go into those kind of communities because we're looking for acceptance. I know somebody gave a donation. I'm sorry. I didn't ignore your donation, beloved. I want to say thank you for that donation. I'm just in it right now. I'm in it. Right. So when we come through, family, and we start sharing information, we see how many people in our community want to stay asleep. We see how many people in our community we make them uncomfortable. And they give us that narrative that we should love everybody, right? Because they're disillusioned. Now, am I not saying you shouldn't love people? I'm not saying that at all, but we know what they mean when they say love everybody. We know exactly what they mean. And it's evident that they are disillusioned. Let's go on to number 2. Here's disillusionment number 2. If whites give us equality, things would change. If whites give us if they give us equality, things would change. See, people who behave like that and people who think like that, they obviously don't understand the true definition of racism is, and they don't understand that racism is a system. The 9 areas that I pointed out to you guys, and family, if you need me to keep saying it over and over again to you guys and memorize those 9 areas by heart, I will do it. Y'all let me know. But what I'm saying to you is, many, not all, but many are looking to white people to give us equality because they lack the understanding, they lack the awareness of what racism is as a system, and they're still trying to play a not even a decade old, it's older than that, right? They're trying to play an old game from hundreds of years ago where we didn't know any better. They're trying to play an old ass game. Oh, second curse, my bad. Old ass game that our ancestors had to play to survive. We don't got to play those games anymore. But we have come to condition ourselves to believe that it is still true that we have to play these games and we have to ask for equality. We're asking for acknowledgement. We're asking for employment. We're asking for shelter. We're asking for respect. You name it. We are asking this system that is not designed to make it equitable or equal, 2 different words. How about I rephrase that? We're asking a system that is not designed to make it equitable and equal for us, because we don't understand the system that we are operating in, right? The disillusioned folks go along to get along. They go along to get along because they don't want to create waves. They don't want to create waves. They tell us to be patient. Be patient. They say work harder. Get educated. You sometimes got to start on the bottom before you can go to the top. Love everybody, including your enemies. And the people who are telling us not to make waves, to be patient, to work harder, to start at the bottom and humble yourself and work so hard that you are recognized and move to the top, get your education, keep going till you can't go anymore, love everybody, help everybody. Those same people are met with disappointment when they're still at the bottom, no matter how hard they work. They're still at the bottom. They're still at the bottom. They're still loving on everyone. They're still doing the wobble and the electric slide. They're still handing out dashikis and kente gear. They're still asking for acceptance. They're still trying to get as close to white as possible. Thank you for that donation, ADOS team. I appreciate that. They're still trying to get as close to white as possible. And every day they're waking up to a new level of disappointment that should let them know they have been disillusioned. And because disappointment hurts, disappointment feels bad. But because they don't want to feel the pain of disappointment, They just try a little harder. So they're going to go from straightening their hair with the hot comb to putting a perm in their hair, relaxer. They're going to go from wearing a relaxer to get an extension. They're going to go from getting an extension to getting a weave. They're going to go from getting a weave to getting a wig. They're going to go from getting a wig to making it blonde. Because, like I said in number one, that whiteness is the measure in which we have been programmed to live up to in order for us to determine our success and if we're likely to be accepted. Right? And I know some people say, why are you focusing on a woman? The men do the same thing. The men put S curls in their hair so they can get some waves and curls that they ordinarily do not have. The men go from wearing clothes that look swaggerlicious to wearing corny ass shit that I cursed again. Too bad. Wearing corny ass shit that most black women don't even want to engage you in. You're wearing boat shoes. You have a sweater around your neck. Who the hell is doing stuff like that? You're wearing that ridiculous ass scarf, right? No tie, but you want to tie things in. Who's doing stuff like that? Roland Martin? Who's doing stuff like that? That is not our swag. But because they want to be accepted and they want to be liked because they are disillusioned. Right? So when we come along, family, and we just put the information out there. We're not bashing you. We're putting it out there. We're asking you critical questions. Why do you talk like that? You want to argue. Because to really answer that question will cause you to look at yourself and to ask yourself if you're trying to be accepted by the standard in which racism operates. So when we say, tell me again why you dyed your hair blonde, instead of having a real conversation, they want to stay disillusioned and say things like, because I wanted to, I like blonde hair. But don't believe me. Don't believe me. Because some of us are disillusioned. And we have to really start asking ourselves critical questions. We have to really start examining ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's no judgment when you examine yourself and you wake up and you are able to say, well, damn, I was operating out of whiteness. Even there was a time that I was operating out of whiteness. I had to be honest with myself, baby. Number three, the third area of disillusion I want to discuss is we are all the same. One race. That is the narrative that is put out there. So we run with it. We're all the same. One race. Yeah, we are. But here's the questions that we need to ask. This is what we have been told. This is what we have come to believe. But then two critical questions. Why does the system, the powers that be that control the system, and how they show up, why do they not want mixing of the races? No, it's not illegal, but it doesn't mean it is celebrated. Why do they not want all of the races? If we are all the same, that is one race, why do not want all of the different colors, all of the different hues to act in unison, to be unified? Can we really even examine the idea that they are against Black empowerment empowerment, they have always been against the gathering, the massive gathering of Black folks. They have always feared Black folks uniting. They have always feared intermixing of the races. But even having this conversation makes people uncomfortable, because that would require them to put down their belief system just to examine it, not to argue from your belief system, but to just examine it and ask those questions. Because if you have to ask those questions, then that means you do not understand racism as a system as identified by Neely Fuller. Then you do not understand the purpose of racism as a system: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, religion, politics, sex, and war. You don't understand those 9 areas. The purpose of it is to maintain white power structures. To put down your belief system is just to look at the raw data, the raw information, and the raw facts without your understanding, without your interpretation, without your belief system, without your emotions and your feelings. It's just to look at it and say it doesn't add up. If we are all equal, if we are all one race, why does it not add up? And they don't add up because they do not view us as an equal race. They recognize that we are human, believe it or not. They know that we're human. They try to come up with pseudoscience back in the days, but they recognize that we are human. They just don't view us as an equal race. And they were able to maintain that power structure because they tell us, oh, y'all gonna be mad. Some of y'all gonna be mad on Sunday when you are in the pulpit. They tell us that Jesus came to save all of humanity. And while they're telling us that Jesus came to save all of humanity, they have given us a white face to portray Jesus. And we don't understand the conditioning, and we don't understand that our subconscious mind has been deceived. We don't even understand that they are controlling our minds to keep us in order. And the reason why we won't explore it, and the reason why we don't explore it collectively, the reason why we do not do it is because it will require us to wake up and be disappointed. It will require us to wake up and be disappointed. Be disappointed in the fact that we haven't moved that far along. Just like the article I read to you guys at the beginning of this video from the New York Times, October 27th, 2006, when I read that Black voters are disillusioned because they keep showing up to vote and they're not getting anything in return. This was said in 2006. Here we are in 2020, 14 years later, and we're having the same argument. But if you speak to some people in our community, they would say that things are better. We have come a long way. So why is it that I keep showing you guys article after article after article after article, whether it's 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 60 years ago, we're still having the same discussion, but we have been disillusioned. We have been disillusioned when we wake up and we realize that what we've been told, things has gotten better. We have fought, we have come so far. We have done a lot. We are successful as a community. This is what we have been told. But when we wake up and we look at the data, we look at the information, we look at the facts, we are disillusioned. We are disappointment because what we were believing, it is not supported by the data. It is not supported by the data. And we always have the confused bots That's what I call them, the confused bots that come into our little circles, and they always want to tell you about the one person or the two people, and hell, if you're lucky, the 5 people that they know that is majorly successful. We're not talking about anecdotal information. We're talking about a community, a community. But this is what we do when we choose to be disillusioned, when we choose to fall asleep and not wake up, when we choose to want to hold on to the belief that things are getting better, when we have one example or maybe even 5 examples that we look at, we want to just look at that as the measure, because that measure is as close to rightness as possible, and we're still striving to get there. But when we show them the evidence and when we show them the data, they want to argue with us with their emotions because they are not able to stomach the fact and the information that we are sharing with them and process it from a critical perspective. Number 4, another area, number 4, that we are in need of some serious awakening. Women are able to do it all. A lot of us women, we are disillusioned. We are waking up to realize that we have been sold a trick bag and it is not true. Right? And the whole idea that women can do it all is a systematic conditioning and programming. And when we look at the 9 areas that Nellie Fuller laid out for us, when we look at those areas and we analyze it with the concept, the new concept, or within the context is what I should say, of what racism is and racism functions as a system, when we look at it, then we understand what has been happening over the years that got us where we are today. We understand that the goal is to educate the woman while we lock up the man. We understand the power in making sure the woman is educated, making sure she's marriageable, not for the black man because he's incarcerated, but for the white man. We have been systematically conditioned and programmed to modify our roles and to believe that they are non-existent. The roles that you have been told are non-existent. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter. To get rid of it, modify them. Not realizing it is a way of emasculating the man while causing the woman naturally, because we operate on duality. You know what duality is, brothers and sisters, right? We got to understand that we possess both energies, the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And if the masculine energy becomes feminine, the feminine energy will automatically become masculine. And they know this. They know this. And this is why they fought for so long for their woman to stay out of the workforce. But some women has been disillusioned to believe that some of our women have been disillusioned to believe that they're fighting for equality so that they can work. Heifer, you've always been working, even on a plantation. What part do you not understand? But you refuse to wake up. You want to continue to live in this illusionary world. You don't want to be woken up, because if you do, then you will have to admit that you are fighting somebody else's battle and they are winning while your family continues to lose. They have changed the narrative for our community. They have changed the expectation for our Black women. They have highlighted Black singleness, but they don't talk about white singleness. There's a lot of white single family homes. There's a lot of white single family homes, but they don't highlight it. And in this day and age, there's a lot of white people that go into infertility clinics by themselves and getting pregnant. and raising these children by themselves, but they do not highlight it. They have changed the narrative. They have changed the expectations. So society now looks to us to be the single home headed by Black women. They have created it and caused us to believe that we can do it all. They have caused us to believe that feminism is the way. So we have a lot of Black feminists. And they started to believe that feminism is the way by highlighting Black male toxicity. They come up with these terms to switch the narrative, to change the discussion, to confuse the mind, to keep us asleep, and having the Black woman believe continuously that she can do it all. But Black women don't realize that they have thrown the rock and hit their hands. And when the rock hit her ass in the back of the head, when she turned around, she saw a Black man, and she thought the Black man and his toxic ass threw a rock in her head, and she turned around to fight him, not realizing that the enemy threw the goddamn rock, turned around and just started to take notes as he observed the behavior, and he saw the strategy that must be used to deconstruct the home, and he has been doing it ever since. But a lot of Black women remain asleep. But those of us who are waking up to the disappointment that we cannot do it by ourselves, when we're waking up to the disappointment that we have to change the narrative, we are sharing the information now about our Black men that matters. We in our community is changing the language with how we identify. Thank you for that donation, Donnie. How we identify our Black men. We have made a conscious decision in our community to change the narrative because we have woken up. And when our eyes opened, we were disappointed at the number of our sons, our fathers, our brothers, our husbands, our partners, our friends, our neighbors are incarcerated, have been emasculated, are being shot down and killed. And we are recognizing that we cannot do it alone. We have been sold a trick bag, another strategy designed to keep us in the bottom caste, keep us from obtaining wealth, because they invented marriage, which is a social construct. They invented it because they know that marrying brought them wealth. Y'all ain't ready for it. Let me just go on to number 5, because we're running out of time. We're running out of time. We got to go on to number 5. Number five, the other area of disillusionment we need to break out of. Cooperate with the system. Cooperate with the system. The system is colorblind. The trick bags that we've been sold. We have rights. We have justice. And if we follow the rules, we will have no problems. And this is perpetuated and reinforced by people and members of our community who once again subconsciously seek to meet the standard of whiteness. But let's talk about the glitches in the system. That is the bad apples. Let's talk about the glitches. Right? No one wants to break down the bad apple. No one wants to understand the policies and the laws that have been implemented that need to be changed or amended. No one wants to really understand how those laws continue to enforce the bad apples to exist. But instead, we want to stay asleep. And the sleeping Negroes are the ones who say, well, what did he do? What did he do? Talking about the Black person. Well, do you see his past? That was prone to happen to him. It must be the fact that he got an absent mother or absent father. He came from a single parent home. And they're just taking notes. It's working. The research that we're putting out there is working. Yeah, it's working. Absolutely. Good one, Bob. Oh, yeah, this is great. So they can always look to one person in our community to run to their rescue, to be the voice, to talk to our community, to convince our community that what they're doing is right. And the onus is on us. Right? Right? Cooperate with the system. Cooperate with the system. And we're telling our brothers and sisters that your advancement in this world, your success in this world is based on merit. This is what we're telling them. You work harder, stay a little bit longer at work. You should never leave before your boss. You shouldn't leave before your co-workers. You need to be the one that's staying at work and work a little bit harder. Be nice and make sure you stay flexible. Sometimes they're going to call you in on your day off. Make sure you stay flexible and make sure you stay humble. It's okay. Don't let them people see you angry. Listen, if he want to take the credit, give him the credit. Don't argue with them people. Don't give them a reason to think you angry. Don't give them a reason to think you arrogant. If he wants the credit, let him take the credit. God knows you did the work. God knows you did the work. You want to be successful? Help other people get successful. Don't complain when they give you their work to do. Do their work. Do their work. That's how you advance. So we have people in our community that has followed this rule that has them living in la-la world, that you have to cooperate with the system. And they become disillusioned when they realize that they were sold a trick bag. When they give all their years, they give their 25 years of service, their 30 years of service, and then their ass is let go. And now you owed, and they're discriminating against you because you owed. And you're angry and you're bitter. You give all of your time and your effort. You did everyone else's work. You stayed humbled. You stayed nice. You were flexible. You showed up on time and you left later than everybody else. And you got skipped over for the promotion because there are no Black presidents on the walls in their corporation. So you must know your place. You won't be up on that wall. But you still go along with that trick bag. Then you wind up angry and depressed because you have been given a rude awakening. You have been given a rude awakening. And the rude awakening that lets me know that our community is suffering from disillusionment is when we find out that we are under fire 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are in the fishbowl. It doesn't matter if you're the drug dealer on the street or if you are the manager in a Fortune 500 company. They see us all the same. Because we are constantly in the fishbowl. We are the community that everybody wants to study and everyone wants to examine. And everyone wants to see how can they get a piece of our flesh for their benefit. We run into the rude awakening, the disillusionment, when we realize that we perpetuate their system. They even control the way we breed. Take away your options, leave you garbage that they've damaged. They have engineered. They have conditioned and they have control over their mind and then give you that option to breed with. They've been breeding us forever. But even when you say this, people are still disillusioned. They don't want to believe it because they like to think that they had a decision. and who they were going to start a family with because they were asleep. They weren't operating as a soldier fighting against the system of racism and white supremacy. They weren't operating with the mindset of examining those 9 categories to see if your mate is an appropriate one for you. We've just been doing what we have come to do. Even the way some of us raise our children, especially in the Caribbean communities, raise our children and we'll send them away, not realizing that detachment hurts, causes depression. We'll separate the children. Ooh, we don't even realize that we are perpetuating the system that they set up for us. We don't understand that we are operating from our subconscious mind. Our behavior is just on automation. We don't understand it. And we don't know why our children come back and say that they are angry at us because you raised these set of kids and I had to go live with somebody else. And then the damage continues. We don't understand that we are perpetuating their system. The rude awakening also helps us to see that we place limits on our own innovations and our own intellect because we have been conditioned to do so. So when you wake up and you're able to see the limits that we have been placing on ourselves. Oh, y'all don't believe me. I can see y'all don't believe me. So this don't make no sense. This don't make no sense. But I'm going to give y'all a study. This is how they know it makes sense. So there was a study of lab rats. I believe it was rats, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a study of lab rats that every time they try to do something and go somewhere else, they will get shot. Every time they try to find themselves out of the maze, they would get shot. Kept shocking them. And then they turned up all the shockers, opened up all the doors that would allow them to move and roam and get free. But because they've been shocked so much, they have been conditioned and trained not to move forward anymore. The door is open. You are free to move about. But when you get beat down so much, you give up. You give up. And we don't understand that by us limiting our own innovation and our own intellects is because we have been adopting white standards. We have been communicating white talking points. We have been entrusting our talents and our skills to white people, hoping that they were going to get us closer to their success. Now, I'm glad we are getting reacclimated with the truth and understand, people, it is painful. The truth is painful. And as humans, we try to avoid pain, right? We try to avoid pain at all costs. That's what we try to do. But in order for you to get free, in order for you to wake up and do something different, in order for you to truly dismantle the system, you have to wake up. You have to feel the disappointment. You have to feel the pain, because that is going to let you know you are alive. You gotta feel it. But I'm going to tell you why many of us don't do it and why we're not feeling, because we are also a depressed community. We are a depressed community. And in order for us to get out of it, we have to take control of our lives, and we have to take control of our children's lives. We have to. Because if we keep going in this direction, we are going to destruct. We are going to destruct. What's that song said? Self-destruction. You're heading to self-destruction. Go back and listen to the lyrics. Self-destruction. You're headed to self-destruction. This is where we're going. This is where we're going. We don't even know what depression looks like. And I'm not talking about on an individual level. I'm talking on a macro level. We are a depressed community. We have been trying to fight to wake people up to how you get your power. But when you have so many folks that are asleep and they are believing in their dream that we have the power because we have one or two examples of success, it makes our job difficult because we're given the information, we're given the data, we're given the research, we're given the evidence, and they don't want to see it. Well, that ain't true. That ain't true. Listen, my parents did good for herself. They did good for herself. My parents, they own their own homes, but your parents took out another loan on their homes. So they can't pass it down to you. And now they sick and they need Medicare and they need other services. But because they own a home, they're looked at as wealth and they have assets that need to be liquidated in order for them to get the services to meet their health care needs because they don't have wealth in the bank or in assets that can be liquidated for their survival and your survival and your children's survival. Thank you for joining the community. Thank you for your continuous support as my members on this channel. I appreciate it. Everybody loves to talk about the wealth that they got until their ass get old and they gotta liquidate that wealth in order for them to survive and stay alive. Taxes backed up, reverse mortgages, second mortgages. The kids don't want it because the house hasn't been kept up and there's debt on the house. So they look to sell the house to make their mama look as poor as possible so she can get some care. But you got wealth. But you rich. Because it's painful for you to say we are not. Because it goes against everything that you have been conditioned and engineered to believe. It goes against what you have been living, this illusionary idea that you have reached the level of success because you are as close to whiteness as possible. To talk about the fact that we have been robbed of our culture, we have been robbed of our spirituality, we have been robbed of our identities is painful and it causes depression among our whole community. That's painful. How can such great Black people with the lineage here in America who have done great things be in a position that they are in right now? That is painful. It is depressing. It is depressing, and no one wants to feel that way. But we're still looking for ways to identify ourselves. I'm Black, or I ain't Black. I'm ADOS, I ain't ADOS. I'm FBA, I ain't FBA. I'm Native, I ain't Native. We're still looking to identify because we recognize that no matter what we choose, live it in the fishbowl, they still see our asses the same. And the people that they don't see as the same of us that get elevated, we want so badly to identify with them because to admit that they are different is painful for us. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all don't need me to go there, right? Y'all don't need me to go there, right? What am I talking about, family? Y'all can name many of the people that we like to claim as one of us. But white world lets us know that they're not one of us. Right? We look for opportunities. And I'm talking to the ADOS community. We see other people come outside of our community that don't have our struggle. and they ride our back on the flatness of blackness. And every time somebody hears the word black, they automatically associate it with those of us who are ADOS. And then they say, look, they're doing well. Not realizing that that person doesn't have our experience. They are not ADOS. They are not a symbol of us doing well. And when we speak out against it, the sleeping Negroes tell us to be quiet. The sleeping Negroes tell us to be quiet because it reminds them that their blackness is not appreciated. Their blackness is not welcome. Their blackness is not valued. Their blackness is at the bottom. But here's the thing that we know that lets me know that our community is depressed. Because the majority in our community seek to escape the truth. They rather hold on to hope, this ideology of hope, not realizing that hope is crippling. Hope is paralyzing for our community. Don't get me wrong, there are levels to hope, but the kind of hope that we hold on to does not yield us any results, but we're afraid to let go of it because we have been bamboozled to believe that if you hold on to hope, eventually you're going to see it. And so when we look for the successes in other people who are not part of ADOS, we like to see the success in ourselves when it is not true. When it is not true. But to accept it means that you will have to wake up. And no one wants to experience disillusionment because it's disappointing and it's sad. And it lets you know just how depressed you are and how depressed your community is. We're fighting to hold on to hope. We're fighting to hold on to our optimism because we don't know what else to believe. We avoid helpful information because helpful information will require us to examine ourselves. And to examine ourselves is to raise our self-awareness. And to raise our self-awareness causes us to rise to the level of self-actualization. In order for us to rise to the level of self-actualization, we will have to take back our power. And for some reason, I think that we don't believe that we can do it. So that's another reason why I believe that we are depressed, because depressed people feel powerless. We are self-medicating as a community. And when I talk about self-medicating, I'm not talking about what you're thinking about, drugs and alcohol. I'm not talking about that. We are self-medicating through entertainment. We are self-medicating through feel-good moments. We are self-meditating through the representations that have been given to us as symbols of our success, when in fact, is nothing but an illusion. Yes, we are self-medicating through religion as well. We are self-medicating. And that's what depressed people do. They feel hopeless. They feel powerless. Many of them self-meditate. They are immobile. They're not able to get out of their bed. They want to stay in the darkness. They don't really want to have the real conversations that will help them to rise up, because it's painful. And to experience pain hurts too much. Our community is depressed. Our community is depressed. Our community is sleeping. Our community needs to wake up and recognize that there is truth that is being said. It is being shown to you guys over and over and over and over again. But our community collectively. I'm not saying those of us who are changing the narrative. Our community collectively is making it difficult for those of us who are talking truth, who are changing the narrative, who is showing evidence. We're not coming from emotion. It is rather difficult to convince somebody that they can stand when they have been made to believe all their lives that they don't have any legs. And if you vote for this party, you're going to get some legs. And when you vote them in, they say, we got you next time around. We just ran out of money in the budget because this war came up. We're not able to do it, but we're going to get you some legs next time around. And even though you're hurt and you're depressed and you mope and you say, oh my God, it just seems like they keep telling me the same thing over and over again. Fuck it. I'm not going to do it. That's what depressed people say and do. Fuck it. Makes no sense. Fuck it. I ain't going to do it. Because they have been made to believe they don't have any legs. That is our community. It's all I have for you guys, brothers and sisters, tonight. I thank you so much for your love and support, right? I thank you so much for that. I thank you guys for sharing the video. I thank you guys for engaging in the chat room. I thank you guys for viewing. I thank you guys for coming to my Saturday classes, my women, rather. I thank my women for that, right? At the theiriswoman.com every Saturday, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the AM, building our relationship, strengthening our relationship between the Black man and the Black woman. I thank you so much for your love and support. This is Mental Health Fridays. This is Mental Health Fridays. And even though it sounded like my Sunday show where I addressed the Black community, this is Mental Health Fridays, people. And I hope you were able to see that tonight. Love every last one of you guys. Thank you so much, James Green, for that donation. I will see you all Sunday with my message to the Black community. Speak to you all soon.